I do also because, Kyle being so good and so, well-rounded in the e-com space, I do, want to have a chance to provide a little bit more value to you guys and asking him, about his, experience a little deeper into drop shipping, because that's, how we started.
Yeah.
And kind of just explain, how it is, how it works, and really just fundamentally what it is.
Yeah, so I'll give a quick recap for those of you that don't know what dropshipping is entirely, but it's a form of commerce, right? So when you think about Amazon, they order inventory to products, or sometimes they even have sellers that will be on their platform that order bulk inventory, a lot of times overseas, aggregate it all in one place, and then when an order happens, they have to fulfill it at an Amazon warehouse. So really the only difference between drop shipping and traditional fulfillment models of like bigger brands like, IKEA or whatever it might be, is you don't have inventory, right? So you and I can be a business owner and we can start a business in 24 hours, building a website on Shopify, integrating products from, let's say, AliExpress or Alibaba, and we can just tell the supplier, hey, can you just ship this directly to the customer? I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to have to touch it. And so it creates a very low barrier of entry in order to kind of get started in the business model, right? So even the way that, that Poseidon's workshop started wasn't necessarily drop shipping because there was a sense of inventory in the United States, but I believe there was, it was, outsourced to more of a 3PL that would print designs on the clothing, things of that nature to streamline the process.
Right.
So he started much better with this brand than I started with some of mine because I had to wait for long shipping times overseas. The quality wasn't there. I couldn't step foot in the warehouse and the manufacturers like he can to actually vet the qualities, things like that. And so throughout my process of doing it, it has become this kind of evolution of, hey, a lot of people start with shipping products from overseas, and then it gravitates towards realizing that you need to have a good customer experience. You need to eventually get some inventory, but it's a great gateway and a starting point into business. And so I think some things that you guys can take home, because you've probably researched how to make money online like everyone.
Exactly, yep.
And dropshipping is one of those top 5, top 10 things to do, but it's deceitful, right? Because every business is difficult, and it's honestly going to be more difficult the easier it is to start, right? So it's going to be easier to start, but it's going to be more difficult to succeed, right? When there's a low barrier of entry. When you look at businesses like nail salons or like real estate, things that need more capital, generally they are actually easier to do because less people have the ability to do them. But something like dropshipping, where everyone, their grandmother, can do it if they have $500 in their bank account, it's a lot tougher to stand out in the marketplace and to provide that, advantageous customer experience compared to your competitors. So my advice for you guys who are looking to get into some form of business, especially in the e-commerce space, is you have to kind of focus on 2 things. One, it's always going to be customer experience and making sure that you have some form of a better experience to your competitors. So if you do start with the dropshipping model, that's fine, but it's more of a pathway into understanding e-commerce and starting to learn marketing and learning content generation and learning supply chain and all of these things. And it's kind of to get your bearings. And then once you do have your bearings and you have that product that's doing well, it's not as complicated as you think to communicate with the supplier, order some inventory, and then start maybe fulfilling within your house, within your garage, within your basement, right? Like a lot of startups do, and then transitioning to something like a 3PL, where a 3PL is essentially a third-party logistics company. Sounds like a bunch of fancy words, but all you're doing is you're sending this inventory to a warehouse in the United States, so maybe you can pop in, take a peek, make sure it's really good quality products so that you are going to be able to ship the products faster. You are going to be able to have a good branded packaging design and good customer experience. And even in that case, you never really have to touch your products if you don't want to, right? It's just the fact that it's coming from a warehouse here instead of a warehouse in China, so it's going to be faster, handled a little bit more reliably, and generally, like I said, you're going to have a better customer experience. So that is the route, if you're interested in e-commerce, that I would take. I'd also look into foreign markets, believe it or not, like Europe, for example. A lot of people are trying to advertise to the United States, and they neglect markets like France, like Germany, because they think, well, I don't speak German. But the whole point of building a business is bringing on team members to help you do it, right? Neither of us could have gotten to where we are, and we're not going to be where we, would be able to be in 10 years without the help of other people, team members, things of that nature. And so that's another thing with e-commerce is you learn how to work as a team. And so we were both athletes, and so we got to learn that at a young age, and that always trickles into business and growing things, building anything, to be honest. If you're building a house, you need to deal with multiple people. If you're, long story short, that's probably the entry way that I would personally get into e-commerce if you guys are looking into getting into that business. And then on top of that is the marketing, right? So most people have this paid acquisition and they're dealing with Facebook, they're dealing with TikTok ads, all these different things, but you want to start organically, right? I think that's a big way that you grew your brand. That's how I grow some of my brands now.
Yep.
And it's that entryway into getting proof of concept into products, proof of concept in the business model, because you can have one video that changes your life, right? I've had friends who have done 200K in a single day from a video getting 50 or 100 million views in a single day on TikTok. They didn't spend any money on advertising. They didn't have a ton of business experience, but because they were just very savvy with the content platform, like we talked about, short form, getting people's attention, and then again, they had this business that probably only took them a couple of weeks to create. And again, I don't want to glorify the process of it being easy, but it is easy to start. And if you stick it out over a long period of time, it's going to be inevitable that you're going to succeed with it. You just have to continue to grow, stick it out, let time unfold, etc. So that's probably the best, I guess, general breakdown and advice that I can give in e-commerce, breakdown of kind of how it works. But again, at the end of the day, it's just your entry point into business. It's a great place to start. But after doing it for a couple of months, doing it for a couple of years, you're going to want to transition into building something a little bit more meaningful that you can eventually build up and then sell to someone else who wants a business that's doing well. Because not a lot of people are going to buy dropshipping stores, but they will buy a brand that has done, a couple $100,000 a month, or a couple $100,000 a year even for 2 or 3 years. You can sell that for $1 million, $2 million sometimes, and that's probably life-changing money for a lot of you guys that are watching this, on the other side of the camera. So I think that'll wrap up my spiel with e-commerce.
100%. Listen, I'll even ask a question that maybe you're curious of right now, and hopefully you could drop a little bomb on them.
Yeah.
People are curious, like, what product do I start with? What is like that next 6-figure product that will make me those 6 figures, right? Like they want to know what the best product they could start with, even because they do want to start. I know you want to start, and you can start, and maybe he can help you out with an idea.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on where you want to market. So you have to look at it from a bunch of different directions. But in short, the products that are going to sell well and they're also going to sustain for a long period of time are a lot of times, they're not going to be those products that cost $100 that you want to sell for $200, because that's going to be very difficult to get a lot of people to be interested in buying it. You want to have something that's relatively affordable, but that you have enough margin on the product. And margin is just essentially what the difference between what you're selling it at and what you're getting it for is. So if I get a product for $10 and I sell it for $40, that's a relatively good margin, because I have $30 to now go and pay to acquire a customer, let's say on an advertising platform. And on TikTok, if you have no acquisition costs, then you can sell that same product that costs $10 for, let's say, $20, and you can still have almost 50% margins on a business, which is very, very good in the e-commerce space for those of you that don't know. So try to find a product, number one, that's relatively cost effective. It doesn't have to be $5, right? Again, you have to make sure that you have enough margin to profit with it after your advertising expenses, after all things are said and done. But cost effective product, not too expensive, and also something that people either need or they really, really, really want, right? So it doesn't have to be something that cures cancer or that cures someone's, bad posture or that fixes an ailment. It can be something like, a trendy LED lamp, right? And so that might not be a need, but through your marketing, through your content, through positioning the product creatively, you can almost make any product be desired by the person that was created for, right? Every product is created for a purpose, whether it's a boring product like a tripod, or whether it's something that's like very exciting like I don't know, something like again, fancy LED light humidifier, right? All built up in one. Everyone wants humidifiers, everyone wants LED lights. So imagine you had a product that had both of those all together.
Exactly.
And so to a certain market, they're going to be very interested in that product, even though it doesn't solve a problem. But it's even better if you can find a product that does solve a problem, right? A posture corrector, something for your knee. And it doesn't just have to be health. It could be a beauty product, right? Like magnetic eyelashes that helps girls save time when they're going out and getting dressed up, so they don't have to put on the glue, or they don't have to do this, they don't have to do that. And so finding products that solve a problem, that provide a convenience to other people, that make something easier, right? That shorten the time that it takes to do something, like a cooking product, for example, that makes it easier to make a meal that a lot of people commonly make, or to wash the dishes, whatever it might be. Finding products that just genuinely have a purpose. You don't want to just sell products that don't really have a clear purpose, like just some random like bar stool or a chair. You can, don't get me wrong, a lot of people sell many chairs very successfully, but especially on the platforms we're talking about, you want to sell products that people can really resonate well with.
100%. Especially.
Oh, all right, restarted. You're good to go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, 100%. Listen, again, if you're on TikTok scrolling, why just scroll mindlessly, right? Be mindful about what you're looking at. There's a bunch of products on there that you could start with, I'm sure. You know, whether it be ads specifically for you, or just things that you see as you scroll. You know, just don't go into it. Just you don't get me wrong. You can just consume that content. You know, feel free. We all do it, but make sure that when you scroll, you're also scrolling with an intent. Especially if you want to start a business of your own, definitely. And you know, I guess another topic that we have, unless you want to talk about anything else.
You know, I'll build all that real quick
because
I didn't talk about where to go to find products, just
right.
because when you get to a certain level where you've tested a lot of products, and I think a big part of business, especially in e-commerce, is trial and error. So, you know, it took you multiple designs to figure out what actually stuck, what people resonated with, things of that nature. It took me, you know, hundreds of products just to find 10 that were really profitable and that made me a majority of like my income and my wealth. And so you also have to look at it from the perspective of how creative can I be when I see a product that I can think of something that's maybe similar to it, that I can be maybe the first to sell it. So for example, if I look at a water bottle and I see that someone's super hot and they're pouring water on their face in the summer, then most people are thinking like, well, like that's weird. Why is someone pouring water on their head? Like, yeah, I get it, it's hot, but you're making a scene, blah, blah, blah. In my head, I'm like, holy shit, I can develop a water bottle that has a spray element to it,
Exactly.
to where it's like discreet, and you know, I could talk to suppliers, or I can look out there and see if it already exists and throw a logo on it and make it my own, right? And so being able to find products from everyday things around you, right? Like I'm looking in the room, I see hats, I see clocks, I see home decor. There's so many different products that you can sell. It's just figuring out how can I take a product that a lot of people want or have already purchased where there's proof of concept in a market, and how can I find something that's a little bit more unique than just that traditional product, right? If it's a ring light that we're looking at right now behind this camera, can I find something that's more compact, or can I create something that's smaller, that's portable, maybe that has different colors that are changing? And of course those exist, but there's always a little deviation or a variation of the product that you can create. For example, a phone case that has a built-in ring light and flash that's better than just the traditional phone camera flash. That's a product that did super well for a ton of my friends that sold it, and a ton of other people. And just something like that, it's a variation of something that's commonly accepted. It's just innovated in a way. And a lot of times it already exists. So you can dropship it. You can look for it online, and you could probably find a manufacturer. And as long as you sell it in a way that's creative and that's better than all the other people that sold it, you can sell products that everyone else is selling. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you're someone who you find yourself to be a little bit more creative and you want to go down that route instead of something more corporate, like, you know, feel free to express yourself. Like, be innovative, you know, test things out. Like he keeps saying, trial and error, super important in seeing what works and what doesn't, right? Things will fail, and that's okay. We know this. You know, you just have to keep pushing and keep trying until you find that winner that hits and ultimately may end up changing your life.
Yo, you got an at?